Hi guys, welcome back aboard good old Athena here in beautiful Barbuda. After 8,000 nautical miles, we seem to have developed a slight rigging issue with our in-mast furling. Barbuda is a wonderful place, but in terms of fixing in-mast furling issues, well, we might as well be on the moon. It's pretty remote here. But fortunately, about 74 nautical miles that way, we have St. Martin. If you're new here, we're Ava and Mess. I spent 7 years on a somewhat extensive refit of our 1987 Trident Warrior sailboat named Athena. It was an oh glorious sanding extravaganza. We left Denmark and started cruising full-time, sailing down Europe's west coast, and then we had our biggest adventure yet, crossing the Atlantic. Now we're sanding and sailing our way around the world. This morning when we got underway, I wanted to put up the mainsail and I tried pulling it out and we got it out, but it was kind of sticky and difficult to get out. So I tried furling it back in and out a couple of times, but nothing really changed, and we've never had that issue before. Before we left Denmark, I tore apart our in-mast furling and serviced everything, so I have a fairly good idea of what's going on inside of the mast. Now, I have 3 guesses as to what might be causing this issue. The first option is the foil here inside of the mast. If the tension is off on that foil, that could cause the issue we're seeing. The second option is our standing rigging. If I sight up the mast here, it does look like we have a tiny bit of rake or bend in the mast, and for in-mast furling you really want the mast to be as straight as possible, so we may have to fiddle with our standing rigging a little bit. And the third option is there are some bearings inside of the mast here that may need to be re-greased. If it's not any of those 3 options, well then we get into the slightly more uncomfortable territory of maybe it's a bearing that's starting to die. That would potentially be really annoying because I don't know if we can still get spare parts for this old in-mast furling. This is over 35 years old, so it may have to be a custom machine job, or yeah, let's just cross our fingers for one of the first 3 options. Quick little side note here. I have been making YouTube videos for well over 10 years now, and as a result of that I've developed a little bit of a spidery sense. And that sense is tingling right now because I can already feel that we're going to get at least a handful of comments saying that in-mast furling is the devil and no sailboat in the history of the world should ever have been equipped with in-mast furling. Now, I don't agree with that. I think there are some really cool benefits to in-mast furling. But also keep in mind that our mast here is over 35 years old. It's already done 1 circumnavigation with a previous owner, and over the last couple of years we've put around 8,000 nautical miles on the mast. So yeah, just don't judge all in-mast furling because we're having an issue right now. Let's detour from the in-mast furling stuff and check in on Ava. What are you doing?
Okay, well, welcome to the passage meal prep madness, because we're going to be doing a 600 nautical mile passage, and usually we just like to do meal prep and freeze all the meals for each night of the passage for all the dinners, just because we never know how we're going to feel, and it's just nice to have like meals prepped in the freezer so we can just defrost them and eat them. So yeah, that's what I've started.
This week we're planning on heading straight from here, more or less, to Turks and Caicos, which is the 600 nautical mile passage Ava mentioned. But with the in-mast furling, I don't know if it's going to happen this week.
I cooked like a couple bags of just like plain chicken that if we want to like reheat with like something else, we have like a bunch of different sauces and things that we can make with that. Those are just nice to have all the time in general. And then I have some more chicken because we're going to do curry, because aboard Athena we eat curry at least once a week. And it's just like the best meal it's just like a good comfort food, especially when you're sailing. And then under this bowl we have the world famous on this boat, I call them sumac balls. They're just like these meat and onion meatballs with sumac seasoning. Really good.
All of the effort Ava is putting into pre-cooking these meals is of course not going to be wasted. We'll just freeze the meals, and then if we end up being stuck in St. Martin for a week or a month or whatever waiting for spare parts, well then the meals will just be waiting in the freezer. And just like that, as if by magic, we are about 75 miles closer to St. Martin. It was quite the slow ride getting here. We haven't used the main. I'm sure we could get away with using it, but better safe than sorry, and we're not in that much of a hurry. We did get pretty lucky with the wind though. We weren't going dead downwind, but the wind was aft of the beam the entire way. So yeah, just going by the head sail alone, it was decent. I'm sure it's not going to look like much on camera, but the only thing that was kind of annoying on this little jump here was the leftover sea state from the high winds last week. It has been a little bit rolly and bumpy, but now we only have 7 miles left, so everything is okay. Or so I thought. It ended up being super rolly over on the Dutch side of St. Martin, so we came over here to the French side. That is a little interesting thing about St. Martin, because the northern side here is French and the southern side here is Dutch. Earlier this morning we took care of the whole checking in thing, and it's not as easy here as the other French islands. Here we actually had to go to the harbor office. It's about a 30-minute walk, and once you get there, don't be fooled by the fake entrance like this fool right here. The correct entrance is on the other side of the building. Once you get inside, head up the stairs and head right, or just turn around in circles and look bewildered. I was a little bit surprised to learn that anchoring is not free here. We are charged to anchor in this bay and this bay only, and I think it's something like 50 euro cents per meter per day. So for Athena that works out to be around 6 euros per day, which isn't bad, but it's just weird because this is not that nice of a place to anchor. I don't want to sound ungrateful, because I mean, it is a nice place. It's just not like a scenic anchorage, or it's not like any kind of a nature park or anything like that. It is just a bay that's adjacent to the town. So yeah. Today is Friday, meaning the weekend is almost here. So if we need help from a rigger with the mast, that's most likely going to be next week at the earliest. So if it turns out we need the help from a rigger, I think we might just move about a mile north of here, where there is a bay where it's free to anchor, and then we can save a few euros. What's a little bit funny about the being charged to anchor here is the fact that it's done by the honor system. So when we're checking in, the guy told us to just keep an eye on how many days we're anchored in this particular bay, the only one we'll be charged for, and then we'll pay that fee when we check out. So yeah, long live the honor system. Enough about bureaucracy. Let's see if we can get at least a tiny step closer to figuring out what's wrong with the mast. Normally when we furl and unfurl the mainsail, we put the vang at a mark here on this line, so we know the boom is always in the same position. We do that because to get the sail to furl nicely, the position of the boom is relatively important. So this way we just always keep it nice and consistent. To unfurl the sail, all we do is just to open up these two clutches, and also we can open up the outhaul. To unfurl and furl the mainsail, we always use our Selden E40i electric winch. Now let's see if I can replicate what went wrong the other day. We'll have Ava command the button so I can be up here by the mast while the sail is unfurling. Ah, that's annoying. The sail didn't get stuck this time, so let's try again. Came out perfectly smooth. Weird.
That's what she said.
Okay.
We spent the next few hours frantically furling and unfurling the mainsail in an attempt to replicate what I saw the other day. Pulling out the sail by hand to better be able to judge if there was any friction, checking the tension on the foil, checking the shape of the mast, checking the outhaul and the furler for any source of friction. In the end, I never found the source of the issue, nor was I able to reproduce the issue. Good news, yet very frustrating news at the same time.
Our original plan for this week was to do the 500 nautical mile passage to Turks and Caicos. But with coming here, having to check in, having to check out, fiddling with the mast, yeah, that weather window has now come and gone. I believe the saying is, when life gives you lemons, go to the Chandlery. The silver lining to coming here in St. Martin is the fact that there are really good boat pushers here. We should be able to get basically anything our heart desires here.
We've also come up with a new plan for what to do now that we can't go direct to Turks and Caicos anymore. Our next jump is going to be to the BVIs, which is about 90 miles that way. Now 90 miles is more than we can do during a day, so it'll have to be a short overnight jump for us. To time it correctly, we should leave sometime around 4 o'clock this afternoon, meaning we have a little bit of time to kill. We're currently at anchor here on the French side of St. Martin. The interesting thing about St. Martin is that it's half French and then half Dutch. There are two really good chandleries down here on the Dutch side. Now to get there, we can do a shortcut in the dinghy through this lagoon here. It's about 3 nautical miles to get there, which of course should be child's play with Mr. Speed Demon.
So far, in our roughly a month and a half of ownership, Mr. Speed Demon has been a one-pull wonder in terms of starting. We've gotten a lot of comments mentioning to remember to wear the kill cord. I found this brass clippy thingy making it much easier to attach the kill cord to my pants, thus making me more likely to do it and still having my hands free. We waved goodbye to Athena and ever so gently tickled Mr. Speed Demon. There is an opening bridge over the inlet into the lagoon that opens for sailboats and bigger boats, but smaller boats like our dinghy easily fits under. The lagoon is giant, very calm and also very shallow. It seems to be mainly home for boats in storage mode as well as boats in need of some work or maybe a lot of work. Inside of the lagoon, people don't seem to be limited to any kind of speed limit, so we got a chance to get some wind in our hair and or beard. The bridge across the lagoon sits very close to the border between the Dutch and the French part, but fortunately you can cross over this border without any kind of bureaucracy or paperwork. Within a few minutes we spotted our first stop, the trusty old budget marine, one of the 2 big chains here in the Caribbean. We locked up the dinghy and the outboard, although this feels like a very safe spot, and headed inside what might very well be the biggest budget marine I've ever been in. I have a few fun projects I'd like to do while we're in the BVIs, like a couple of carbon fiber forged parts using 3D printed molds. Fortunately, Budget has a good selection of composite supplies. What we couldn't find in Budget Marine, we managed to find in Island Waterworld, the other big chain here in the Caribbean, like for instance some 8-strand line for a new light weather anchor snubber.
Oh my god, I love it.
Right?
Yes. Get 2 of them.
Visiting chandleries or boat pushers in the Caribbean, knowing that we'll soon be in the US, is a little bit tricky. We have some projects that it would be awesome to get checked off the to-do list, but at the same time it's going to be much cheaper for us to do that in the US. So mainly this is a case of looking with your eyes and not your fingers. It was interesting to find a 3D printed part right alongside an injection molded part. It looks like a handle to open a sea strainer, but we can easily print one of those ourselves and save the $25. We've been looking for a nice stainless steel dinghy anchor for a while for when scuba diving, and I had been drooling over the Mantis 2.5-pound dinghy anchor, but I was not expecting to find it here. I'm excited about this because it comes with everything you need. There's a nice little bag for storing everything in. It comes with some line and a shackle, and most importantly, the anchor packs away completely flat. Everything snaps into place easily, and pardon the French, but this is one heck of a cute little anchor.
I freaking love it. I'm gonna sleep with it. It's so cute.
Okay.
And like that with like the mini epoxy set, like it's too much for me today.
Too cute?
Too cute.
Hopefully this thing will see a lot of action when we get to the Bahamas and we can really get into the scuba diving. Until then, it'll just sit nicely tucked away inside of its little bag. I also finally found earmuffs for the outboard so we can do a freshwater flush after we've used it, although we don't as of yet have a convenient way of hooking up a water hose on the boat, so that's something I'll have to figure out. I also found everything I need to make a new light weather anchor snubber that's going to be much easier to use than our existing heavy duty one, including little bits and pieces here for making a pendant snubber. And last but not least, everything I need to start playing around with some forged carbon fiber parts in 3D printed molds. I think that's going to be very cool, including a bit of PVA, which I was super excited to see they had at the Chandlery. Let's get all of this stuff squared away way, and then in a couple of hours we can start heading towards the BVIs. This short overnight passage is going to be a bit of a first for us because this is the first time we've done an overnight passage with the dinghy up in the davits, or the dinghy arch. Well, we're just going to clean off a bit of that sand before we bring up the anchor. There we go. In terms of wind for our overnight passage, it's not looking good. We're looking at 9, gusting 13. So I think there's going to be a fair bit of motoring tonight, but we'll see. We have 81 miles to go. The water maker is cranking out water, and the batteries are getting charged, although we've just been sitting doing nothing at anchor all day. So the solar panels had us up to 87% by the time we left. But the low winds are kind of good news in terms of testing the mainsail. It's a great opportunity for us to get it out, see how it behaves throughout the night, and then if we run into any issues, it shouldn't be too bad with the forecast winds.
In an almost completely flat sea, we motor sailed into the sunset. This certainly brings back memories from the Atlantic crossing. It was a new moon, meaning the only light we had during the night was from the stars, but as usually is the case, eventually the sun started peeking up over the horizon again, and we caught our first glimpse of the BVIs. Motoring through the night cost us roughly 25 liters of diesel, or around $35 worth. Yes, it would have been nicer to sail, but we would have had to wait in St. Martin a lot longer. Immediately upon arriving, I got my biggest fear about the BVIs confirmed. It's going to be busy. This is a very popular charter destination.
We took care of the always fun clearing in process and came up here to Gorda Sound, which is about 6 nautical miles from where we cleared in. Upon arriving here, we figured out that there's going to be a little bit of extra glorious bureaucracy associated with us staying here, because we're going to have to keep Athena here for a little bit over a month, and that means apparently we need to do what's called a temporary import of the boat into the BVIs. I'm sure it's going to be an glorious exercise in bureaucracy. Not only that, but I am also going to have to be here for a little over a month. And when you get here, by default, you get 1 month stay max. So I'm going to have to apply for an extension to my visa, which I'm also sure is going to be a lot of glorious bureaucracy. In next week's video, we'll get back to why we need to stay here just a little bit longer. But yeah, there's nothing we can do. We just have to jump through these hoops and cross our fingers that everything will work out. To sum up our in-mast furling situation, so far I have still not been able to reproduce the issue. So yeah, I think maybe I was just a little bit careless when I was furling the sail when we got to Barbuda, and that caused the sail maybe to bunch up a little bit, and that's what caused the friction when I unfurled it. I don't know, but we've had it in and out a bunch of times. So yeah, I don't think we have an in-mast furling issue. Thank God. It is a little bit annoying that we have missed our weather window to go to Turks and Caicos. But as always, there is a silver lining, because I think it's going to be way better for me to stay with the boat here in the BVIs. Like for instance, here in Gorda Sound, it's going to be a lot more protected in one spot compared to Turks and Caicos, where I might have to move the boat around a lot to get protection from different swell and wind angles. And on that hopeful note, we're going to end this week's video here. We hope to see all of you guys back here aboard Athena next week for
Checking out Gorda Sound, seeing what we can find.
Yep. And also, of course, the glorious bureaucracy I just mentioned. So
fun.
Yeah, that's going to be the delight, I'm sure. So yeah, we hope to see you guys back here aboard Athena next week. As always, feel free to leave a comment down below, and don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video,
please remember to leave a like.
See you. Pew.
Pew, 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 pew.
Good job, Lovey.
Good job to you. And peace be with you. Whoa. Whoa.
If just people could slow down a little bit when they pass the anchorage.
Oh, my crochet injury. My neck.
Injury.